Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another week of breakdown and predictions. This week we got another UFC Apex card. We got it headlined with Alex Perez and Mateus Nicolau in the flyweight division. Some pretty decent fights overall. It's hard to come back after a card like UFC 300 and be that overly, hyped about the card. But I think there's some fun fights on here. I think there's going to be a lot of finishes on this card, so that's always good to see. And there's some other stuff going on this weekend that I'm pretty interested in as well. There's the BKFC Knucklemania 4. I'm gonna probably put a breakdown and prediction out for that. I'm gonna be going to that event, so pretty excited for that one. Mike Perry versus Thiago Alves, and yeah, guys. Outside of that, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and let's try to hit some of these picks, win some money, and get some good bets in. If you want access to my bets, go to patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. You can get those right now. I have pretty much almost the entire card for BKFC as well over there with written breakdowns. So if you want access to that, go check that out. But let's get in this fight card right here, man. With the first fight of the night, Gabriel Benitez and Machado. Kind of a fight where the UFC is trying to test Machado with a veteran that usually beats guys that aren't UFC levels. So I think this is probably a loser-go-home match for both guys. I think the loser of this fight might not get another fight in the UFC. And it should be an entertaining fight. I think it's going to be more of a stand-up battle. Don't really see either guy looking to wrestle. And Gabriel Benitez, southpaw, he has heavy kicks like everyone says, but recently he hasn't really been using those kicks that often. He's been much more boxing oriented, and I think that he's just getting a little up there in age in terms of damage. I don't think that he takes shots as well. He didn't have to worry about someone taking him down in this one, so I think he could be a little bit more aggressive and confident. But ultimately, I just think Machado, he's a big guy. He's younger. He has slick striking in his own right. He has good ability to control distance and snipe guys. Really good left hook. And I feel like he's more dynamic, a little fresher at this point in his career. He has the power advantage. And his last fight, I think his last couple fights he lost to Rafa Garcia as well. But I still think that he's a solid fighter overall. And I think that he could get the knockout here. So I'm going to go with Machado to win this first fight of the night over Gabriel Benitez. And second up here, we got Ivana Petrovic. She's taking on Leang Na, and don't really got a ton to say about this fight. I think Na Leang Na is one of the worst fighters in the UFC ultimately. Her striking is, she's fast, and she has length, and maybe she has power. I mean, she hasn't really landed clean. It seems like she has something about her on the feet in terms of, like, if you could hone it in. But at this point, her striking is really extremely low level. And you look at her wrestling. Her wrestling is decent because she really sells out for the takedowns. And she was able to get a couple of takedowns on J.J. Aldridge and some people, but she loses position on the ground. Her grappling is not good at all, really, to me. And she tends to kind of get really tired and then quit. She doesn't pace herself well, so it's a fighter that you really don't want to trust. I mean, she's probably only going to finish really low-level girls, and if she does get a win in the UFC, it's going to more than likely be off something that is just not going to happen that often. You don't really see 125-pound females finishing each other in the first round like that, especially when it's not like someone that has big, huge power. And Petrovic, she looks like I think has like a kickboxing background, but she looked like a decent grappler as well. And I just feel like she's just going to have to survive that first round craziness, and if she doesn't get finished in a scramble or in some weird thing on the ground, I think she'll be able to pretty much take over the fight and get the finish. One thing I don't think about that Petrovic has is very much finishing ability. Like, I don't think she's a big ground and pounder. doesn't have big power on the feet, doesn't have a big submission threat. So maybe the over 1.5 rounds would be a decent bet. But I think Petrovic is going to get the job done inside the distance and probably finish in the second or third here. And continuing through the card, this one we got a short notice matchup with James Llontop. He's taking on Chris Padilla. And I feel like Padilla is coming in here on short notice. He's like a long grappler, but I feel like he's a little bit sloppy everywhere. He's decent, but I just don't see him winning this fight. I think that his opponent here, the Peruvian, they've been doing really well recently, Preux fighters in the UFC, and I think that he has way slicker striking. He's going to be a lot more fluid, a lot cleaner. He's going to have the higher volume. And Padilla may get him down or get him against the cage, but I don't see him being able to control him or really get much meaningful offense. And I think that it's just going to be offset by the striking here of James. So ultimately, I don't know if he's going to get finished because it seems like he has experience. He's a tough guy. He's hard to get out of there. And I don't necessarily think that Llontop is like a huge power guy, but I'm going to say that he wins this one via decision here in a pretty dominant fashion. I think Padilla may have some time where he's controlling, but I don't think he's going to get much off, and then I think he's going to get beat up pretty bad, and I feel like he could, as the fight goes on, start to wear damage and kind of get beat up a little bit. So give me Llontop to win this one in the battle of these two guys that are debuting here in the UFC. And up next we got another fight with a huge favorite with Ketlin Souza, who's taking on Marnik Mann. Souza, she's coming off that loss to Karini Silva, and that was a pretty bad loss because she had to take some time off due to a knee injury. I don't know if she had to have surgery or how bad the injury ended up being, but I think she had a pretty significant knee injury from that fight. And then Marnik Mann, she lost her UFC debut to Josephine Knudsen and really didn't have a lot in that fight positive besides just toughness and being able to get to the final bell. So I didn't think that she looked very good at all. And she also had that fight with Bruna Brazil where she got knocked out with the head kick. So this is definitely probably the last chance for Marnik Mann to get a win here in the UFC. But it's a tough fight because I think Ketlin Souza is pretty good everywhere outside of the wrestling. She has good striking, high volume. She throws a lot of kicks, a lot of single shots. But in this fight, it's not going to matter because Marnik Mann has pretty much non-existent striking. She's really short, and I think that the kicking game of Souza is just going to give her a lot of issues if she can't get the takedowns. And Souza does have enough power with her pot shots to make Mann not just walk through her shots. She's going to have to respect her. But Marnik Mann, the one thing that she could potentially do is get Souza against the cage, pin her there, hold her against the cage, maybe get a takedown, lay on her. Souza has good grappling. I feel like her jiu-jitsu is decent, but her wrestling is not the greatest. So that would just be Mann's path to victory. But Marnik Mann, she isn't explosive with her takedowns. She kind of relies on fighters clinching her to then get the takedown from that. And if Souza has a smart game plan, she's probably going to be able to win this one running away. I don't necessarily know if she's going to finish Mann because Mann did survive with Knudsen and she was able to get hurt and recover in the fight with Bruna Brazil before being finished as well. If Souza can land a big head kick or spin kick, especially if it's later in the fight, I wouldn't be shocked at a finish, but I'll say that Ketlin Souza wins this one via decision. And this next fight, we got a low-level heavyweight fight between Dontel Mays and Kyle Machado. I feel like Mays is the way better fighter, honestly. Hard to say that in most Dontel Mays fights, but outside of speed, and volume and just probably being more durable. And if they're in the pocket just swinging and banging, then I think that Machado is going to get the advantage there. But Mays is more athletic. He has more on the outside. And I think that he can kind of dictate where the fight goes by being all the way in or all the way out. When Machado tries to get into range, crashing the distance, clinching, pushing Machado against the fence, hitting takedowns. I think Machado has horrible takedown defense, really low level. He was able to kind of hang tough in his fight with Mick Parkin and make it competitive, but you even saw, like, when he gets taken down or when he got put on his back in that third round and in other fights that I've seen, way too content to just lay on his back, man. He doesn't really try to get up. And just in general, heavyweights, they don't really have that explosiveness. They're big, so it's like hard to explode back to your feet a lot of the time. And Machado, if he gets taken down by Mays and Mays has that game plan, I think he'll win easily. And I feel like Mays can use his movement. I don't think he's the fastest guy in terms of his hands, but he can move fairly well, and he's really tall and lengthy, so he could stay on the outside, like I said, and then get the takedowns. It's just his fight IQ is where you have to question Mays. Mays could come out here and try to strike for 3 rounds, get walked down. Machado could kick his legs a couple times, which neither guy throws leg kicks, but I think Machado would definitely benefit from that here if he went for that, but ultimately I don't think he will. But Mays, like I said, unless he has a bad game plan, he probably will win this fight. He has the cardio to maintain that pace for 3 rounds too. So I'm going to go with Mays in this one, but I do think, Mays is someone that's prone to go out there, fight to a bad game plan, and lose a fight that he should win. So it's a close money line for a reason, but I'll go with Dontel Mays. And up next, we got Austin Hubbard versus Michael Figlock. And I like this fight for Figlock. I think it's kind of a buy low spot for him. Austin Hubbard, he's a veteran. He had a stint in the UFC, got cut, went on the Ultimate Fighter. Now he's back in the company. Michael Figlock, he had a really bad UFC debut against Fares Ziam, where he kind of got dominated for pretty much the entire fight. And it really lowered his stock because I think he was a favorite in that Ziam fight. Now he's still a favorite against Austin Hubbard, but it's not as big. And Ziam is better than Hubbard by a pretty wide margin, in my opinion. But you look at both these guys from a stylistic standpoint. Austin Hubbard, not the greatest athlete, and I think he's slowing down even more. I don't think he's the oldest guy, but he has taken a lot of damage and been in the game for a while. But switches stances, kind of tries to use a jab and head-body combinations. He doesn't really have a lot of punch power, but he has okay knees, and then he does decent when he can control distance and be the guy going first. He can hit takedowns. I don't really think that he's very good off the back foot, though. And Figlock has that good effective pressure. He has solid boxing. You throw in my opinion, faster hand combinations, a little bit tighter punches. And I don't think Figlock has a lot of power either, but he keeps that pace and pressure, which I think will be effective. I think he can back Hubbard up to the cage. And if Hubbard shoots bad takedowns on the legs, I think Figlock can defend those and get on top, control Hubbard, reverse, and do well from the top position. I know in his last fight he got dominated in the grappling department, but I think that was more because of the length of Ziam. He was able to take him down with more clinch takedowns and things like that, whereas I don't see Hubbard being able to do that, and I think Figlock's going to do a better job of defending the takedowns. And in general, it's been a while since he fought after that fight, and he's not an old guy. I'm sure that loss burned him, so you have to think that he's out there wrestling and getting better with that, and you see it on his social media that he has good wrestling training partners. So I think Figlock's going to go out there and hand Hubbard another loss and get the victory here, probably via decision. And up next year, we got Hani Yahya versus Victor Henry. And if you've watched the channel, you know that I'm one of these guys that I've picked Hanayaya in a lot of these spots where he's came through as the underdog, and I've picked him when he's lost too. So I like Hanayaya. I think that he has a effective style because he fights to his strengths, and he stays to that. He goes out there. He's not going to try to strike with you. He's going to go out there, wrestle hard, try to submit you early, get you out of there, and that's why he usually gasses out. But he has that veteran savvy enough to usually bank out, enough time to where he could win 2 rounds and then get beat up in the third round and win the decision if he doesn't get the finish early. But he's a lot older now. He's been fighting for a long time. I think probably almost 20 years now. And he's coming off a pretty significant layoff. So that to me is definitely a red flag. Victor Henry is old too. He's 36. But he's been more active. And I just feel like he's the younger guy. Less mileage. Just the way that he fights. He doesn't seem like he has, I don't know, he just doesn't seem as weathered or as much as age as he is, even though he's 36 years old. But it's a tricky fight just because if Hanayaya can get him down early with that single leg, he's probably going to bank the round or submit him, and he could get the back. Henry does expose his back, so I think, if Yaya can win that first round, then there is potential that he could steal the second round and steal the fight. But if Victor Henry could shut down some takedowns in the first, I see him finishing Yaya eventually because Yaya's striking is just not on that level. It's not horrible, but Victor Henry's much smoother. He's really high volume, kind of a death by a million cuts type of fighter, but he's able to mix in power as well. And I just feel like Yaya will get really tired. And Yaya's fought a lot of more grappling-based fighters, if you look at it. Or guys that are like inexperienced strikers. He hasn't really fought the cream of the crop guys. Where Victor Henry, I think, has been fighting a lot better competition. And Victor Henry, I think, will be able to turn up the pace and maybe get Yaya out of there when some of these other guys haven't been able to by making kind of dumb mistakes. But yeah, man, Yaya's a veteran. He's one of these guys where if he can get you down, he's probably going to win that round or finish you. I don't think Victor Henry's been submitted in a long time in his career. So I don't likely think he's going to get submitted, but he could get controlled. It's just, I just don't trust Yaya at this age off the layoff. I think Henry is a good anti-grappler, even though he makes mistakes, and I think that he'll probably be able to win this one, and I'll say he wins in the third round via finish here. And now we're moving on to the main card, and we're kicking off the main card with a really good fight, an action fight between another OG veteran in Tim Means taking on Uros Medic. And this is another guy, if you watch the channel, I'm usually always picking Tim Means in most of his fights. I really like his style. I feel like he is an underrated guy that never really, when you fight certain guys, certain people get good matchups, certain people don't. And I think he never really, in his prime, got those matchups where he could have maybe moved up further in the rankings, but he's still been able to stick around and do really well. And he's taken on someone in Uros Medic who isn't really as proven, but in my opinion has really slick, nasty striking and is someone that with potential to have a really long, fun career in the UFC. So this is a good fight. I mean, Tim Means, you look at him, I think that he may try to come in here and try to make this one a lot uglier than most of his fights, not use his boxing as much, wrestle, clinch, and I think that would be the proper game plan. I think that, he's been wrestling a lot more in his recent fights, and you see Medic on the outside. The guy's a sniper. He's an incredible striker with those long-range weapons, great kicks, really fast hands, good 3-2s, good 1-2s, big power. And you have to admit, I mean, even if you're a Tim Means fan, he's getting slower closing that distance, man. His feet are getting slower. He's walking in the range a little bit plottier, getting clipped, and he doesn't have as quick a hands in terms of being able to use that jab or use his punches to get on the inside and get to that dirty boxing range where he's really a menace. But he's just been able to take shots and get in on the guys that he's been able to beat and beat them that way. But we've also seen more recently he's been getting dropped, hurt, submitted, and his chin isn't quite as invincible as it used to be like before that Nico Price fight. So I do think that Means has kind of taken a little bit too much damage at this point, where he's still a formidable guy, but he doesn't have that iron chin that he used to have, and that could be a big issue with Medic. And I think that Medic's cardio is a little bit underrated. I feel like people really bag on his cardio, but he went in there on a week's notice in Salt Lake City and was able to finish Matt Semmelsberger in the third round. I feel like his cardio is better than people give it credit for. It's just Means has to make this fight nasty, man. He has to be able to close that gap, get in close range, land uppercuts, land those short hooks, land elbows, maybe get a takedown or two, like I said. And that's his path to victory. But I think he's going to be a big danger closing that distance, especially early in the fight and really throughout the whole fight, because I do think that Medic is going to maintain his pace unless he's getting really beat up. And I don't think it's out of the realm possibility that Means wins this one, because Medic doesn't have the best defense on the inside. So it's really just a battle of who can get their game off. And I don't agree with the line. I think it should be closer. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Medic. And I'm actually going to say he wins this one via first round knockout here. And moving on to the next fight on the main card, we got another really good fight. Jonathan Pierce. He's taking on David Onama. And really, really, in my opinion, close fight. I feel like the line is not right. I feel like it should be closer to a pick'em. And I think people give David Onama a lot of, they shit on him for past performances, but they're not giving him credit. What about his last fight with Gabriel Santos, where he's a huge underdog? He's facing a guy that has good wrestling, that's been able to take down pretty much everyone that he's fought. And Onama's in there shutting down his wrestling. And you have to know, Onama, in my opinion, really doesn't have terrible wrestling defense. It's just his cardio failed him really badly in previous fights, and he was not that experienced. He went all out in that Nate Landwehr fight, gassed himself, and now he's training at Elevation. He's training with Factory X, and you have to think that he's going to have better cardio. He's going to be looking better, and I definitely think like Onama has a chance here. Jonathan Pierce, he's extremely vulnerable on the feet. I know that it's kind of a battle of if he gets a takedown, he's going to cook Onama, and I get that. But you look at the stand-up for Jonathan Pierce, the guy's chin is way in the air, and he's getting clipped by almost everyone he fights with these 1-2s and these straight punches down the pipe, which is Onama's thing. Onama's very explosive with the straight punches. He can walk you down. And if he tees off on Pierce, is Pierce going to be able to eat those shots? I mean, we've seen Pierce drop before. We've seen him run over before by guys like Joe Lozon. And I feel like Onama could potentially go out there and just beat the shit out of Jonathan Pierce and knock him out in the first round. But Pierce could go out there, wrestle, get the takedown, and those same reoccurring issues could happen for Onama where he gets tired and then Pierce could finish him on the mat. So I think someone's getting finished here in this fight regardless, but I'm going to go with the upset here with Onama. I think that he could be able to get this finish in the first round. I think he's going to be able to shut down the takedowns a lot better than people think. And one thing about JSP that I don't like is he's very willing to take the back, and I don't think that he has the greatest back control. And David Onama likes for guys to take his back so he can explode and turn in, get on top. And if Onama gets on top of Pierce and starts raining down ground and pound like we saw in the Gabriel Santos fight, he could turn that fight around too, either way. So I think that Onama's going to continually get better with his grappling. And I'm not saying Pierce is going to not get better with the striking, but I just think that Onama is a better athlete and the better overall prospect. So Maybe Onama will not show those improvements and get beat up, but I'm going to go with David Onama here. I'm going to say he goes out there and wins this one via first or second round knockout in this fight. And this next fight here, Austin Lane versus Jhonata Diniz. Hard fight to break down. I mean, Diniz, a lot of kickboxing fights. I don't really think he's necessarily the most impressive guy when you watch him fight. I mean, it seems like he's a little bit slow and ploddy. He takes shots, but he has good composure and he has big power in his hands, walks you down. And with Austin Lane, I mean, the guy's athletic, he's tall, he can move in and out, he throws good kicks, but terrible defense. His chin is right in the air. And at heavyweight, when you're fighting these hitters like UFC, seems like they don't like Austin Lane. They're always giving him these guys with one punch KO power, which is like his big kryptonite. And it's no different here, man. I mean, if Austin Lane kick at the takedown, unless he lands some fluke knee or head kick or something crazy, he's not going to finish Diniz on the feet, and he's going to get knocked out. But Lane, if he could somehow get it to the ground, which I just don't think his wrestling is good enough. I've seen Diniz shut down a couple guys' takedowns that were like complete scrubs, but I think he could probably nullify Lane's wrestling. And if this fight gets extended, I feel like Deniz's composure is going to help him have that cardio, even though we've never seen it. So I don't think it's going to go long, though. I think Diniz is going to knock him out in the first round here, and I'm going to go with Jhonata Diniz. And this next fight, this is a great fight right here. Both these girls have been looking good. Adriana Lipsky, Karini Silva. I've been betting on Lipsky in her wins where she's been getting these upsets, so I've been on her money train right now, and I think that she's definitely improved, especially with her takedown defense, and obviously she's always had good striking, fast hands, good counter punching, big power, walks you down with that high guard and throws the counter 1-2s, big hooks. And I think that Karini Silva is one of the best prospects that's been at 125 in a while, where she's just been coming in here, finishing these girls, and now she's getting to... I'm not going to say it's a huge step up competition because I think Morose was, probably pretty close to Lipsky's level, but I think it's a step up in competition here and progression towards the belt even, but we still have to see. I think Silva's not proven enough to start saying that yet, but she's one of the best athletes in the division. I think she's one of the few girls that's more athletic than Lipsky in this weight class, and one of the biggest, strongest girls in the weight too, and she's well-rounded. So Silva has gotten way better in a short span of time, and I think that she is going to come out here and be pretty effective in the stand-up, which I don't know if a lot of other people agree or have been saying that. I know Lipsky is the better... not better striker to me, I'm not going to say that, but she's has the more pedigree in the striking, more proven striker. But I think that Silva is going to be able to land those hooks, man. I think that hook is going to be what wins her this fight. I feel like Silva's going to either drop and submit or knock out Lipsky with a left hook. I feel like the 1-2s, Lipsky's good at defending those with the high guard, and they're going to be walking each other down, kind of feinting, getting in the range. I think that both girls are going to be throwing some nice 1-2, showing good movement, but missing. And unless Silva, maybe shoots that big double and gets her down early, which Lipsky's takedown defense has been looking really good recently. So I don't know if she's going to be as willing to do that. That's why I think it's going to be from a knockdown. But I wouldn't be shocked if Silva takes her down. Silva does have a really good double, and she really penetrates well and finishes. But what I think is going to happen, like I said, is I think they're going to be feeling out the range a little bit. And then I think Silva's going to come with the 1-2 and then the left hook after it, land that, and hurt Lipsky and then finish her on the mat. Because I just think that Lipsky's defense isn't really the best to defend hooks. Silva's a really nice hook. We saw that in the Morose fight and a couple other fights. And I just think that's going to be the shot that hurts Lipsky and eventually leads to the finish. So I'm going to say Silva gets the finish in the first round here. And now we're in the co-main event. Ryan Spann taking on Bogongusoff. Hard fight to predict, man. I mean, Ryan Spann's one of these guys that he has all the potential in the world, but he's impossible to trust because just makes terrible mistakes after terrible mistake in every fight that he's in. He never really improves his fight IQ, and he can be a little bit of a glass cannon. Like, he doesn't have the greatest durability in certain fights. But he's taking another guy in Bogongusoff who can have that same exact classification of glass cannon, where we've seen him run over guys and then we've seen him get run over himself. So both these guys definitely can be finished by each other if whoever lands first, cleanest. But I feel like Spann is going to win this one. Guskoff has a shot. He has fast hands. He has that style where he keeps his hands low and then he tries to bait you and then you'll pull, and he has really fast hands, so he'll come with nice pull twos, overhands, uppercuts. His jab is decent, and then he puts nice combos together like that combination we saw against Pauga that knocked him out. That was really sick, and his power is good, but if you get on the inside and kind of can exploit that he has his hands low and touch him, he doesn't have a good chin, and I think Spann could land on him. Spann looked really bad in his last fight, against Anthony Smith. To me, I just did not think he looked the best in that one. But if he comes out here and he looks a little bit more athletic like he has in his other fights, a little sharper, I think he could land and hurt Guskoff. And then in terms of cardio, I feel like Spann is going to have the edge there. Guskoff seems to kind of get very tired. He doesn't have a lot of finishes past the first round. So I give Spann the advantage there. Wrestling-wise, I don't see either guy getting a takedown. I mean, Spann has good grappling. If he can drop him and then jump on the neck or get Bogdan to panic wrestle by hurting him, he could submit him for sure, and he's definitely a much better grappler. But Spann doesn't have really a takedown ability. I mean, I just don't see that happening unless it's just like a wild scramble and Bogdan's overextending and then Spann takes him down or something. But I think it'll probably be a stand-up fight. And I'll say Spann wins via knockout in this one, either in the first or second. But I wouldn't be shocked if he hurts him and submits him either. But I'm going to go Spann via finish. And finally, we got the main event. Mateus Nicolau, he's taking on Perez. And Perez coming back pretty quick, man. I mean, he had all those cancellations where he didn't fight for a long time. Came back, and you got to give him credit because he didn't just roll over. He had a good fight with Muhammad Mokaev, who's one of the best prospects in the weight class right now. Pushed him, but ended up losing in a close decision. And now he's right back, taking a short notice fight in a 5-round main event and looking to kind of move right back into the mix again. But 3 losses in a row. He's older. I think he's 36 years old. And Nicolau, he's not the youngest guy either, and he's coming in here off a knockout. He is a lot younger than Perez, but that knockout loss to Royval was a bad knockout. So both these guys, haven't had the best performances lately. So there's some variance in this fight. I don't really like this fight from a betting perspective or anything like that. But as far as how I think it's going to go, Perez, he has good pressure. The leg kicks are nice, but unless he can really back up Nicolau or hurt him with those leg kicks and get him near the fence, I don't see him really letting his hands go that much because Nicolau is just going to be able to move, be faster, catch him with those shots as he comes in. And Perez definitely has a wrestling advantage, but Nicolau is really good at just getting right back up when he gets taken down, and I don't think Perez is going to be able to hold him down. So even if Perez can try to implement that wrestling game plan that he wants to do, I just think it's going to be ineffective, and I think that Nicolau is going to be able to get up and probably win the striking exchanges. Perez is just going to have to be really aggressive, throw volume with the leg kicks and try to back Nicolau up and get the hands going. but I feel like Nicolau is going to be moving too much. I think that he's going to be touching Perez as he comes in with long shots. And I wouldn't be shocked if, he times a takedown or two himself. And I just feel like he's not going to get held down or controlled for that long if he does get put on his back. Perez, I just don't think he's going to have enough offense. Like, he'll be able to probably not get knocked out. He'll probably be able to not really be in too much submission danger. I don't know if he will be put on his back for that many minutes in this fight, but I just don't see him landing as much as clean. I don't see him doing as much, and I just think Nicolau is the better offensive fighter. So I'm going to go with Mateus Nicolau in the main event to win via decision. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching this full card breakdown and predictions video. Really appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Get me back soon, giving you guys more content. Going to be starting to probably do a show every Sunday and Friday. And it's going to be with guests. So make sure to comment, support those shows. If I start doing them, it's going to be soon. And besides that, guys, as far as my most confident pick and parlay of the week goes, for my most confident pick on this card, I'll go with Ivana Petrovic. As far as the parlay of the week, I'll go with a parlay of Petrovic, Catlin Souza, and I'll go with, and Jhonata Diniz. So that would be the parlay of the week that I'll give you guys. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back soon breaking down another fight card. Check out patreon.com/prediction guru for extra content if you're interested. And besides that, I'll talk to you guys later.